This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome back to Speedstar, a career retrospective on the cornerstone of the Dragon System, Masato Yoshino. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling feed, or you can find us on our own dedicated Open the VoiceGate feed on all podcast platforms and applications. You can follow us on Twitter at OpenVoiceGate. If you'd like to donate to the show, just click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site, and there you click the red box that says sponsor this podcast, and you set up a one-time or recurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Iron Mike Spears, joined alongside, as always, by Case Lowe. And Case, we kind of, for one, I have two of my favorite people to talk about the Dragon System with, and two, we went kind of a smorgasbord this week, especially with our guest, Alan4L.
Yeah, I am obviously delighted to be here. There's nothing I enjoy more than talking about the Dragon System with both you and Alan. I feel like we probably gave this concept that we were doing to Alan before anybody else, and Alan had initially picked a match that I was very excited to talk about because it was a match I was familiar with. It was a match I was happy to revisit. And then as we were planning this episode, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I think we're going to go in chronological order, but Alan picked a match that I had no memory of. He had changed his pick to a match that I was not familiar with, that I did not remember. And it was a nice little foray into something new when I thought for so long that I had really seen the essential Masato Yoshino matches. So it's a delightful occasion to be here, as always. Alan, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little confused. Did you say I changed my pick?
I believe when we first started discussing this, you were all aboard Differ Cup 2003.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about that conversation. Yeah, that was, that's a good point. Yeah, that was something I also was curious about talking to you guys about. Yeah, I totally forgot about originally saying that, and it was funny when you, when we were planning this last week, and I was like, what Yoshino match will I go with? And like, for whatever reason, the match I picked just popped into my head. I think I had thought about it like recently enough for whatever reason, and it popped back into my head, and I was like, you know what? This is an interesting match on a number of levels to talk about. I remember loving it at the time, being surprised by how good it was at the time. It would be a super under the radar match. I could easily see a lot of people not remembering it. And I think 5 years on, it's a fascinating match to look at, both for Yoshino and his opponent. So I was like, I'm not going to second guess this. I'm going to go with my gut, and we'll just go with this match. So I was very, and I think it complements the two matches that you guys picked, because we really have a through line of the Masato Yoshino career with these three matches.
Yeah, singles, a tag, and a trio as well, which I
Yeah.
like that. There's just a lot of things I like in this episode. Before we get too farther though, Mike Spears, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Last week was my coming back down from my terrible, terrible travel experience. But, we've been having just waves of storms in the upstate lately. And that's a good thing because we are about to get some of the smoke from the wildfires somehow. So, I'm enjoying the weather now. I put on a special tracksuit today for y'all. I mean, two favorite people to talk Dragon System with, had to get the right duds on. This is a black and mint green tracksuit that I have on today. And, it's something, green for Yoshino, black, maybe a little bit for my match that I picked here, but I'm doing all right, Case. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. The no AC apartment is keeping me nice and toasty. I did not have my usual post-work nap today, so we're kind of rolling into this podcast with some frantic energy. Mike, Al, and I are prone to getting off topic anyways. I'm sure that will only persist as we go forward in this Speedstar Masato Yoshino career retrospective.
Yeah,
Guys,
so it's
I gotta ask at the outset here. I've been greatly enjoying on your main shows recently the incredible effort you put into your ad reads. And are we gonna get? Am I gonna be part of an ad read here on this show? Am I gonna talk about manscaping and male grooming and all that here this week?
sadly we do not have an ad read this week, but we could get a case
That's
low
good
romance
because I probably
update.
wouldn't be a good representative for those.
I was gonna say, Alan, if you want to talk about manscaping, by all means, you have the floor. We can actually shelve the Yoshino for another week if you just want to go into
He's
that
got 13
topic.
days. He's got 13 days. We're good.
Yeah, Alan, are you busy
literally,
next week?
I literally just timed saying that on purpose because Sarah had walked into the room and she'd walked out in disgust, absolute disgust, shaking her head.
I can give a quick update because I don't think I said this on last week's episode because we weren't sponsored last week. So unfortunately, I don't know if we hit our Manscaped goals. This segment might have to come to an end. But a few weeks ago, the lovely lady that I have been seeing, I'll make this as short as I can, but she was telling me, "Oh, what up, Sarah?"
Come on, Keith.
Oh, she's sitting in. She's sitting in.
Tell us about this lovely lady.
Yeah, she was telling me, so she goes to a trivia night every week, and I'm not able to make it because of the hours that I work. I get up early in the morning, this trivia starts late at night, but we had seen each other the next day, and she was telling me about the categories and how well they were doing, and then they got to this question that was like 80s and 90s athletes, and she was like, the people I was with, we just had no idea who any of these people were, and she threw some baseball players at me and some basketball players at me, and I got them, and then she paused, and again, we have not had a discussion about wrestling. Now, she's been in my apartment multiple times. She has seen my Gran Hamada Universal Lucha Libre poster in my apartment, but she's never commented on it. And she made the remark, yeah, then they started like showing us wrestlers and none of us knew who they were. And I was like, all right, well, give me a shot. Let's see what you got. And she said, well, there was like a dragon guy. And I was like, was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat? She's like, yeah. And then there was like a gold guy. And I was like, Goldberg. Nailed him 2 for 2. And then I kind of let that sit for about a half hour. I wowed her with this knowledge that I just pulled out of thin air and then didn't really follow up on it. And then we were sitting in her room and I basically had to come out to her. I was like, hey, so here's the deal. I know I seem like a good guy. I seem to have your best intentions at heart. I have a lot of fun hanging out with you. What you do need to know is that in my free time, I am a Japanese professional wrestling journalist, and you just need to know that about me. And her jaw drops, and it's one of those things where she thinks I'm like doing a bit, but I'm like, no. I'm unfortunately deadly serious about this. This is actually the thing I care about most on earth. And I pull up voicesofwrestling.com. I say, here's some things I've been working on. Don't know if you heard about this Shingo Takagi guy. He's real good at what he does. Also, Kobe World right around the corner. Like things are, I know you were asking me because we live in Chicago and for my job, I have to go to Lollapalooza, the big music festival here. Like I have to do some things at Lollapalooza, not on stage, relax. I'm doing grunt work. But Lollapalooza falls the same weekend as Kobe World this year.
Oh
And
my.
it's making my life really difficult trying to plan out all of these different things that I have to do. And one of the things she had been asking me is like, can we go to Lollapalooza together for a day? Because she's going on a Saturday. And I finally was like, so you know how I've been like kind of cagey about my Lollapalooza response? Well, you see, that morning, KZ is going to challenge for the Open the Dreamgate Championship, and that takes priority over whatever it is that we could possibly have planned that day. Like I'm going to have my routine where I wake up early in the morning with an energy drink and some Twizzlers. I'm going to write my review. I'll go back to bed for a little bit, and then who knows where the rest of the day will take me. But this is like a thing that I'm deeply, deeply involved with. And she had, by this point, it's canon. I'd established that I do podcasts. And she was like, well, can I hear one of these episodes? I said, absolutely not. No way. And then, because she's a smart girl, she's a real smart girl, I like her a lot, she goes, oh, there's a podcast tab on voiceofwrestling.com. Let me just click. Oh, here's the one that you're on. And then I told her, I was like, all right, here's the deal. Like, we can listen to this, but you're only going to listen to the Manscaped read. And I let her listen to one of the ads that I had done that referenced her. Huge pop, got over big. I'm a real baby face in her territory right now. Things are going very well.
Oh, wow.
Excellent. Well, so, Sarah, do you have any womanly advice to give Case after hearing all that?
I don't know. Maybe she'll watch the Dragon Gate fashion show with you before Kobe World.
A tremendous idea, Sarah. There's definitely going to be a point. I think Dynamite is probably the best entry into, again, because when I said wrestling, she was like, "Oh, like WWE," and I was like, "Yes, but no, no, I'm not watching like Alexa Bliss right now. I'm not a pervert, but there is a level of like, oh yeah, like I'm sure she would be very entertained by some of what goes on. We've been watching, as a couple, we've been watching RuPaul's Drag Race, and I see a lot of parallels between that and the world of professional wrestling that I think she would enjoy. So things are going well. Eventually they won't, but for now I'm having just a tremendous time. It has been a lovely summer.
Oh, the summer girl.
So, yeah, this has been hot girl summer. This has been hot Case summer. We went to the beach. I got very sunburnt at the beach. It was a very good time.
Fantastic. This is well. I'm
Aw,
glad I asked
this
because
is nice.
that's a big update. If we didn't get that update due to a lack of ad read, that would have been there would have been a very big hole in the story. So yeah, I'm glad to have got that and filled that in. I'm sure all the listeners are too.
I'm glad I got that. I'm gonna go lock my bike. How's Pudge before I go?
Pudge is doing all right. We did 2 miles hike today, and he is right now having a treat bone in his crate. He's usually a little wild on Tuesdays, so we're going to see how he is after the show.
What gets his goat on Tuesdays? It's just excited for AEW Dark or something.
I mean, big Taz head, he loves to digress. It's something that, so one episode, I forget when this was, Case, but I used to have a playpen set up for him in my office so I can just look over and like, oh, is he cool? He's cool. He managed to tear apart what was advertised, let me rephrase it, advertised as a puncture-proof bed and was trying to eat all of the filling. And then another time, after we're done recording, I get the edit done. I feel really good about the episode. Oh, it was the episode we did with Rich, Case. It was the episode we did with Rich. I went downstairs, so I was like, all right, I'm going to have to slowly bring him to the office because he's just, it's one of those things that's just a lot of things here. I mean, there's Crazy Max t-shirts up here. There's a Masaki Mochizuki posters. There's both football and wrestling towels. He's got to get it over. You see, I don't have the nice the nice ease-in that Case does with my romantic partners. They come home, they see my office, and they're like, oh, okay. And the
Mike, I have a Grand Hamada poster in my apartment. There's no ease in there. That's like aggressively in your face.
And he wore very small tights and no knee pads ever.
Yeah, he was showing a lot of knee. But so after this episode with Rich, I went down to his crate. He loves his crate. Crates are actually something that it fosters their denning instinct. Like, I know there's people who are afraid of crate trainings. Pudge loves his. And he decided to eat a rubber Kong bone. I don't know if they have Kong toys in Ireland, but they're pretty much designed to be like, yeah, your dog chews a lot. Give them one of these. They're not going to get through it. He managed to swallow half of it. So I spent a good evening into the early morning at the dog ER. Everything's fine. Apparently, he is an alien dog who's able to shred things down to, and I quote from the veterinarian, as fine as rice. And he was fine.
No.
So Pudge is good.
What a chomper.
Sarah, before you go, what do you think of Masato Yoshino?
Goodbye. Very quick.
That's it for Open the Voice Gate. Sarah said more than we can ever say.
Good guy, very quick, nice haircut. Old. It's not that old.
I didn't say old.
Oh, I think you said.
No.
What'd you say?
I didn't say old. I said nice haircut. Well groomed.
Well groomed, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he uses Manscaped to bring it full circle. Get that sponsorship back.
There we go. Maybe that's how we have sold more ads. Is if we know that Masato Yoshino has the sponsorships on his tights. We should have gotten an Open the Voice Gate sponsorship brought to you by Manscaped on his tights. That's how it would have kept on, Case.
That would have been great. Real Brock Lesnar style. Bringing that to Masato Yoshino's gear would have been terrific. He also would have been great to see Masato Yoshino in combat gear at some point in his career. Is that a good enough transition for you, Mike?
Yeah. Perfect transition there. So our 3 matches this week, we're going to do in chronological order like we have done. I picked first, and I picked the earliest match. I picked from Absolutamente 2002. September 8th. My favorite card in Dragon System history. This was the semi-main event, and we can get into why I picked in this match in a second, but this was for the UWA Trios title as combat mode. Crazy Max, the UWA Trios champions of Shima, Taru, and Don Fuji, went up against the Italian connection of Mono Collection AT, Yoshino, and Yasini.
This is a match that I had not seen in many years. This was one that I was happy to revisit. I think, at least when I was beginning my foray into the Dragon system, and my primary mode of viewing was a website that I'm sure you guys remember, but newer fans might not be familiar with it, openthedragongate.com. It was just a collection of old Dragon Gate cards. It was a tremendous website. I was very sad when it went away. But this was always one of those that was featured heavily on their website. I think it was like the most viewed Toryumon show they had. And you see the thumbnail with the two rings, and at least I don't think I've ever seen anything like that since. I had certainly never seen anything like it at the time. So it's a show that piqued my interest immediately. And this match, as well as the main event, which Mike and I have talked about before, Dragon Kid versus Darkness Dragon, but this match in particular is a real favorite of mine. And there's a number of things in this match that I just greatly adored going back and watching, because it is a loaded lineup and a really special one-of-a-kind match.
Yeah, I've seen this match, I'd say, at least twice. I remember the first time I watched this full card, and I was probably maybe 3-4 years maybe into my Dragon System fandom, so I was a pretty hardcore Dragon Gate fan at this point, but knew this was a big show that I hadn't seen from the Toryumon days. It probably went up in like decent quality on the torrent site or something like that sometime back in like probably 2010, 2011. I was like, you know what, I'll download this whole thing and watch it from start to finish. And I remember just loving it. It's just such a tremendous card on a variety of levels. It really showcases what was great about Toryumon in those early years, and what was great about the basic integration of T2P into Toryumon Japan around this time. It was really just a tremendous show. And the thing I always think about when it comes to this show is the entrances of this match, and particularly there's a moment during the Crazy Max entrance where, first of all, all of them coming out in their full on reference may go over your head, but they're full on IRA looking outfits as they come down to the ring, and Shima just goes hog wild and sprints around the whole setup, which is like, because they have the two rings there and they're much further apart from each other and at an angle to each other compared to, say, WCW World War III rings. There's this huge kind of circumference to travel around, basically, if you want to go around the front row of the audience. And Shima basically just does this lap around at lightning speed, just motioning the crowd, kind of the get up motion, and he's so hyped. Like, I haven't seen a wrestler come out this hyped in an entrance since that Marufuji Kenta versus Juventud Ricky Marvin match, where Juvi and Ricky have clearly done a bunch of ecstasy right before coming out and are just going wild and just dousing themselves in water. And Shima may have partaken in a little of the X himself here, because he was in a mood all through this match, and yeah, right from the opening bell with him and Milano just going hell for leather with each other. Oh, there's so many great moments in this match. I would venture to say this match, because of not just how unique the whole Dragon System style and these wrestlers are in and of itself, but the fact that this match, more than probably any other that happened in that system, plays up the Toryumon Japan style versus the T2P style and shows the contrast. I'm unsure if there's another match in pro wrestling history that looks like this match. It's both visually in terms of like the arena setup, but also what they do in the match itself. There's no other match in pro wrestling that looks like this. it's crazy. And there's, even if you have like an eye for Dragon System and you are familiar with it, if you've never seen this match, there'll be things about it that you're just like, wow, that's just, I've never seen anything like that before. Because that was my reaction watching it the other night. And I've seen this match before. It's just been a good few years, but it just bowled me over, some of the stuff they did. Just so unique. That's the word I keep coming back to when I think of this match.
Yeah, and choosing this match here, I figured with like the three of us, with how we are, that this was like kind of a nice kind of thing to kind of look back to, because we haven't done too many Yoshino matches in this series so far. But just like as you're saying, Alan, you had combat mode, Crazy Max coming out. They were fully kitted out. Don Fuji had face paint on. It just
Was this their
oh,
first time doing the combat mode thing, or had they been doing it during the feud leading into this?
I want to say that they did combat mode at least once against original MTK before this.
Okay.
But in this feud, which was basically like the top of T2P against the, really, I said this in the opening, but I'm going to use the phrase here, the cornerstone of Torimon Japan at this time, just going head to head for what were the top belts in the company, the UWA Trios title. And for me, it's something that, like, I feel like a through line in this promotion kind of starts from this match. I feel like that for someone like Taru, this is probably one of Taru's best performances. You can hide him a lot when you're going to have a freewheeling brawl that spills into other rings and such. But for me, it's something like it's the opening face off. It starts off with Shima and Milano Collection AT just going at it. And then Milano Collection AT that was able to find the leg, was able to lock in, I believe it was the Italian stretch number 8 onto Shima. And everyone was like, oh, okay, we understand what's going on with this match. It's going to be Crazy Max going to try to completely beat the living hell out of these 3 fake Italian guys, and the fake Italian guys trying to show that their mat superiority won. And it's something that, I mean, this is a match that's like 16 minutes long, and it just flies by throughout it. And it's just one of the touch points that for me that I feel like that, okay, with Case and I, especially at least for me, how much I talk about how I think that the Darkness Dragon versus Dragon Kid match is still to this day like the greatest moment in Dragon System history. It's my favorite match emotionally. But it kind of, in a lot of ways, this UWA Trios match is something that really kind of shows like this is what the Dragon System is right now, and this is what we are going forward.
Well, it's a level of thought and care that is just absent from most wrestling, and I think that's obviously an issue in current wrestling, but it's an issue that even in 2002 there's no company that's doing something like this. Like Alan pointed out, just the intricacies of, for a year at this point, you had T2P guys doing their own style, doing something that looked so unique, wrestling that looked ahead of its time in 2001, 2002. And quite frankly, if they just replayed the first T2P show today, I think it would still be labeled as futuristic. And then you have this Crazy Max team who is closer to the Torimon House style, but just because of the way they approach this match are very aggressive in this way. And I really like when Shima gets like this. I've talked at length, 12-1-16, the match with the 5 legends versus the 5 rookies in the class of 2016. Shima is wrestling Katsumi Takashima, who had a noted eye injury. And what does Shima do? He punches this man in the eye. In one sense, it's awful, it's horrible, but I'm not a doctor. I don't care. I loved watching Shima do that, and I think his approach here, especially with Milano, is something really interesting to look at, because I just, knowing who Shima is to some extent, him and Milano were always a fascinating pair to me, because I really think they were great foils for one another. And even in this match, we talked about the entrances briefly, in particular the Crazy Max entrance. Well, when the Italian Connection hits the ring, there is just an amazing visual of those 3 guys standing on the stage. It's Milano, Yoshino, and Yashini, brother Yashi, and Milano has the invisible dog, and Yoshino is carrying the tiny ape, and brother Yashi is just brother Yashi, and it is such a jarring visual. It is so uniquely professional wrestling, but also something that is unique in the context of professional wrestling. And it's hard almost. I've been doing this a lot lately. Mike and I did the show talking about the best units of all time in the Dragon System history. I've been doing a lot of writing about Masato Yoshino that you'll hear next week, or I guess that you'll read next week over at voicesofwrestling.com. Putting the Italian connection into words, either written or spoken, is much harder than I realized, because it is a unit so reliant on visual representation, and you look at them and you get it immediately, and you see something that looks like nothing you've ever seen before. And they did that aesthetically with this match with their gear, but also, like Alan said, just the approach to this match, the care, the level of intrigue, the level of detail is second to none. And I should mention, because I don't think we've said it yet, all of these matches are not available on the Dragon Gate Network as of the time we're recording, but they will be linked down below. You can watch these matches if you've never seen them before or you would like to rewatch them.
Just on something you said there, Case, the Shima Milano dynamic, I just want to touch on. First of all, I just want to say, in terms of like the Italian connection being hard to put into words, and just, but when you see it, you get it. I think that just comes from the top down with Milano, because I would say the exact same thing about him. Like, I wouldn't be able to write about what makes Milano Collection AT so special, but I could show you by turning on a match of Milano Collection AT or an entrance of Milano. This entrance of Milano Collection AT, the poise he has, 26 years of age, just commanding the presence, or commanding the attention of everyone in that venue, commandeering the entrance in terms of he is the man in charge during that entrance. Like, everyone else is a part of it, but he is running the show. And the dynamic between him and Shima works so well, I think, because he is one of the only people that Shima has come across in Shima's career that Shima doesn't cast a shadow over.
Yeah.
Shima is such a larger than life, confident presence on screen. He will eat people up, not just physically, but presentation wise, he'll eat people up in promos. He'll eat people up in terms of just aura. And we've seen that time and time again throughout his career, both intentionally and probably unintentionally in some cases. And we've seen it used as a positive with guys who get that rub off him, like a Ricochet being a perfect example, and grow as performers by just being around him. But Shima strikes me as a really difficult guy to basically have a one-on-one feud with, because of just how he will dwarf people. Milano is someone who he couldn't do that to. And this match, that's essentially the story of this match. And it is played out so perfectly, because of at every moment where you think Shima is just about to eat Milano up, right from the first moment of the match where they have their scuffle, and Shima is getting the better of it, and then just so smoothly out of nowhere, Milano puts Shima in danger with one of the submissions, as Mike alluded to, and we see them go back to that multiple times in the match where Milano will lock on these submissions. The time he pulls guard and puts Shima in trouble was tremendous. And of course, then the finish, which I don't want to get too much into the finish, but it's as good of a job at putting someone over and making them look like a star as you'll see. But yeah, so that's I just wanted to mention that because it's so clear. But hey, this is the Speed Star podcast, so I guess we gotta give some love to Yoshino here too, right?
Yeah, and his exchange with Don Fuji, and this was so cool because just like so obviously one is Shima and Milano, as we've been talking about, and then within this feud you had the fact that Don Fuji is a kleptomaniac. He steals things, and Yoshino was mad about all of the hijinks that Don Fuji has put him through, so they went at it. And one of the more brutal versions of the Komori that Yoshino does here, and then Don Fuji picks him up and lawn darts him through a table. Just insane stuff. Like, and then, it's something where like Italian Connection is so fascinating because as y'all said, like you really have to watch them like from entrance to like the end of a match to really kind of get Italian Collection. But like this is probably the match I would say, with the exception of probably the finals of the inaugural Open the Triangle Gate, where like you get the idea of Milano is the guy, but then you have like the perfect number two in Yoshino in a way that like whenever it seems like that Milano is starting to really get it. And I mean, there's a section where like Crazy Max like hates being in this ring, so they wanted to go finish them off in the four-sided ring, and they tried to brawl all the way out there. And you see Yoshino trying to get it back into the match after going through the table and all of that, and he just like stumbles and he gets in there and is trying to fight off everyone and trying to protect Milano Collection AT. It's just such a cool dynamic and an interesting role to see Yoshino play.
I don't think we noted at the start, but this is the way the setup is. One of these rings, and the ring that this match was supposed to take place in, is the T2P style 6-sided ring, and that's the designated ring for this match. The referee stayed there. When they went into the other ring, they were being counted out. But Crazy Max they made that a big part of the story of the match. The Crazy Max would take guys over to their ring, and the crowd would pop. Like it was like you had the Toryumon fans at that side of the Toryumon Japan fans over by that ring, and they'd all cheer when the guys came over to them, and the Crazy Max guys would play to that. Like they were literally going from like the ROH CZW feud, where you'd be going from your fans in one bleachers to the other fans on the other bleachers, and this kind of stuff. Like it was, so great.
It is on the short list of shows where I sit back and I think, God, I really wish I would have been in the building for that. Not only just, I mean, obviously the wrestling on this show, you have two all-time Toryumon matches with this 6-man and then what followed with the Dragon Kid match. But that dynamic that Alan just described is, I don't know of another Dragon System show that felt like it had this level of almost polar opposite reaction to where the crowd was so divided into these extreme camps. And this match, it just feels like it's a level above so many other things. It really feels like a war at times because everyone, and Taro included, pulls their weight in this match. And as a result, one of my favorite 6-mans the company ever put on.
And you've got the wild, chaotic stuff going on outside the ring because you've got like a bunch of Italian Connection members. Kondo's there, Bakery Yagi is there, Shogo Takagi, Jet is there, and then fighting the lone fight for Crazy Max is Sua. But hey, if anyone's not going to be afraid to go rampaging into a 1-on-3 fight, it's going to be Sua. So these guys are just going at it on the outside, and they're being pulled apart by loads of officials and trainees and whatnot. So yeah, it's just chaos throughout the match. It's wild, and I do want to go back to what Mike said about Yoshino being just the perfect number two. And when I think of all the stables, and you guys did an incredible job a couple of weeks ago listing your top Dragon Gate stables of all time. When I think of all those stables, I'm not sure I can think of many more clear and more effective number twos, lieutenants, whatever you want to call it, than Yoshino in the Italian Connection. He really served that role so well, and it was because he had the credibility. Like he had the credibility, and you felt he was good enough in any situation to stand up to any guy from an opposing team. But you never felt like at that point in his career he was like a main event type player. That was reserved for Milano. Milano was the guy, and that's what makes a great lieutenant, I guess, in a stable like this. Is not only are they great and legitimate and believable, and you can buy into them as I said, against the other members of the other stables, but they also don't threaten the spot and threaten the shine that you have on the main guy. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest things about the Italian Collection and one of the biggest things about the integration of T2P was making Milano one of, if not the top stars in the promotion. And a lot of 2003 is built towards that. Obviously, the August 31st match being a big example in 2003 when he submits Magnum Tokyo. They were full hell bent on making Milano a top star, and by Yoshino being the guy by his side, it didn't take from that, but it still Yoshino himself looked really good.
It's a shame that when Yoshino turns, and I think that's March of 2005 when he joins Blood Generation and goes back to his real name. It's a real shame that is post Milano, and obviously he turned because Milano left, and there was no need for that unit any longer. But I can just imagine the gasps of a Korakuen crowd, or I think he turned in Differ Ariake actually, of Yoshino finally turning on Milano and getting some extended interaction there between those two. I think about Milano a lot in all of the things that we missed. I mean, part of the reason that Dragon Gate in 2005 was so great is that all of their plans were thrown out of whack when Milano did decide to leave, and they got really, really creative for a few months. And then Magnitude Kishiwada came in, and they arguably got too creative for their own good. But there's that 6-month period there, what is a really special time in the promotion, and it's really because Milano leaves. And for as much as I love that time, I would love to have the crystal ball and go back into, okay, what is Yoshino doing either alongside or with Milano in 2005? And as we get into the global expansion, as we get into, Typhoon and New Hazard and World 1, what is Milano doing in this promotion? And it's a bummer that we'll never know.
And then we get to this finish of this match, in particular, like the story of the match that we've been talking about. Shima and Milano Collection AT, the two of them are facing off in the ring. All of Italian Connection are holding back Crazy Max. I mean, even Jet was in on the action there and made sure that he was on the hard cam of this. And we got some quality Shima being Shima, just shrugging off nearly everything that Milano Collection AT did, including a head scissors. And then Milano was able to string together some of his bigger moves and lock into the AT lock for the Italian Connection to win the UWA Trios title. And just what a scene that was.
Yeah, it was amazing. And the visual of, to go back to what I said earlier, the visual of Shima with the Okada tears going backstage as like a bunch of people are surrounding him, taping his arm to his body because it's been so screwed up by the AT lock, and Milano standing over him in the corner as Shima's out on the floor. Like, you want to talk about putting a guy over. They did it in a big way there. That was just so great.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I love this match. I love this finish. I love the whole thing. It is really a masterpiece.
It's just such a fun. Oh, go right ahead. Sorry, Alan.
And just to double down on Yoshino, he was really good in this. Really great work with Don Fuji, but also with Shima too. They had some real nice exchanges, some real good kind of proper like classic Lucha Resu exchanges, and yeah, I thought he was great in this. Like, Yoshino was far from the complete finished article in 2002. I mean, he was only 22, but you could see just the talent oozing out of this guy, and you could tell that as he added to his game and as he got more experience, he would be an absolute star. And of course, that's what he became, and that's certainly what he was by the time our next match rolled around.
Absolutely. In case you chose our next match, I'm just going to intro it and throw it to you. This was from the finals of the second Summer Venture Tag League in 2008. It was on August 28th, 2008. It was the team of Masato Yoshino and Naruki Doi, Doyoshi, Speed Muscle, against the team of Shingo Takagi and Dragon Kid.
This match, more so than most matches, personifies what might be my favorite style of wrestling. This era of Twin Gate matches, I'd say from around 2007, when you really started to see Speed Muscle take form, to probably 2011, that Shima Ricochet Pac Dragon Kid feud. Around that time period, obviously there's great Twin Gate stuff that comes later, especially Shima and Gamma versus the Millennials, Yamadoi, etc., but all that stuff takes a little bit of a different tone. This era of Twin Gate wrestling might be just my desert island absolute favorite. This is the style of wrestling that I enjoy most. And these two teams not only had a terrific match at a Dragon Gate USA show, the third DG USA show that Mike and I talked about over a year ago now, that's on audio. That is the Open the Freedom Gate show from 2009. But they have this match. It's a year prior, Cork and Hall Summer Adventure Tag League. This whole tournament is terrific. And I kind of want to throw it to Alan just for a second, because I know Alan watched the entire episode of Infinity that this was on, and I would like to hear his thoughts on that.
I did, and I have great memories of this Summer Adventure Tag League for a variety of reasons. It is the famous no ring tag league, where there was one show where the ring broke in the first match, and basically the whole show had to be wrestled without a ring, and there may be no other show which better exemplifies how skilled the Dragon System wrestlers are, and there may be no show that better spits in the face of the idea of these guys being overly choreographed, unable to adapt, rigid pro wrestlers than this show right here, because they, with no planning whatsoever, get the ring taken away from them and they adjust on the fly and have a show with a bunch of 4-star plus matches because they're amazing. But what I was going to say was just on the. I'll come back to the TV episode as a whole in a second case, but what you said about this era of Twin Gate, 2-on-2 style Dragon Gate matches, I am right there with you. It's something I loved at the time. I was just, I was like the biggest speed muscle, or as I like to call them, doi Yoshi, before I realized they were called speed muscle. If you go into my match of the year tracking sheets back in like 2007, 2008, you'll see a lot of doi Yoshi in there. But uh, and Steen Erico. Those were the two things that was big for me at the time. I loved saying Steen Erico and Doi Yoshi. I was that nerd. But uh, the I loved those guys. I loved Shingo and Hulk. I loved Susumu and Ryo Saito. I loved Araiwa. I was just such a fan of this division, this style of wrestling. The heartbreaking thing is that so many of the great matches, particularly ones that go 20-minute plus or even close to half an hour, which there were quite a few of them, we don't have in full. We have lots clipped out because of the nature of the TV at that time. It was what, 1 hour episodes, I think, every 2 weeks or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But a lot of stuff got cut. And I know there were some matches where you'd only get a few minutes on Infinity, but the few minutes you got, the crowd would just be absolutely electric, like losing their minds in a way that like I've very rarely seen in Dragon System history. Like some of the best crowd heat I've ever seen for some of these matches, and yeah, we don't have them in full. Sadly, it's a shame. The only matches we really have in full are the ones that appeared on pay per view. So, like for example, Araiwa versus um, Yokosuka and Susumu, and then there's Yokosuka and Saito, and there's a Yokosuka and Saito versus Speed Muscle match from a pay per view. There is the amazing Shingo and Hulk versus Kenta and Taiji Ishimori match from early 2008. So we have some great ones that did make it onto pay per view, and we have a few of the TV ones that we got maybe 75%, 80% of at best. So there's enough there to love it, but God, it's frustrating that there's, I'm sure, dozens of great Dragon Gate 2-on-2 tags that we've only seen a sampling of. And yeah, the match we're going to talk about here, we get probably, I don't know, 75% of, but enough to know it's an amazing match, that's for sure.
Even in the context of this tournament, it's Shingo and Dragon Kid, it's Doi Yoshi, it's Cyber Kong Yamato, Hulk and Tanizaki, who are a super fun team, Mochi Fuji, and also this little tag team called the Young Bucks are in this tournament, and we get a super clipped version of them versus Mochi Fuji on the No Ring show. I think it's them against Saito and Susumu that there's a little clip of on a TV episode as well. But not having, and this is as much as the taping schedule as the clipping, but not having Dragon Kid and Shingo versus the Young Bucks on tape hurts me on an emotional level. Deeply disturbing that we never really got to see what that match looked like, let alone matches in Kobe or Sapporo, these normal towns that they would tape in, that we don't have the full matches of it. It's super disappointing. Luckily, this one, I think Cage Match has the runtime here at about 25 minutes, and we have about 21 minutes of this match. So a lot of it is there. And what we see is, one of the best tag teams of all time in Doyoshi, and this very short-lived Shingo Dragon Kid tag team that I wish, just for the sake of match quality, they would have extended the life of, because they were such a wonderful team together. And Mike, I'm kind of curious, Alan waxed poetically about this era of the Twin Gate division. I don't remember, is this a time where you were following the promotion as it was happening? Please elaborate.
So Alan talked about my favorite tag team in Dragon System history, Araiwa. So yeah, it's something that the first few Summer Adventure tag leagues were just so awesome because they really, and it's something that they really haven't gotten a balance of now. And it's something that, I mean, really over like the last decade, they have had this kind of minor issue where usually it's the Triangle Gate that's either really hot or the Twin Gate, not both. But at this time period, they found a way to really kind of highlight both of them. And just like Ryosuka was such a fun team. And I mean, it's just like these important, like, just building blocks that it, in a lot of ways, if it wasn't for like this and the Tenryu Project, the Tenryu Project, independent junior heavyweight tag team title belts that they unified in with the Twin Gate, really like set the road so that we could have the Shima, Gamma, Saka Zenroku, the Susumu Yokosuka, and Kagetora Yokosuke Chome, and even like Big Ben, Tomahawk, TT, and Eita. Sorry, T-Hawk and Eita. Like, this is like so formulative of this time, and it's such a bummer about what made tape, what didn't make tape. But Alan, there was one match and two combinations of names that did make tape that I was live in attendance for. Just a little show called Dragon Gate Challenge 2 in Orlando, where we got to see Senerico versus Doyoshi, and still one of my favorite matches I've ever seen.
I wanted to bring that up because that WrestleMania weekend was like Ring of Honor's homage to the Dragon Gate Twin Gate division mixing with their tag team division. Because let's think, we got Steen Eriko versus Doyoshi. We got
New Hazard versus New Hazard versus Age of the Fall.
Yeah, New Hazard versus Steen and Generico. And we got... Was there another Doi and Yoshino match? No, because they would have been in the 6-man. So was it the 3 matches? Was that it?
There was Briscoes versus DK and Cyrio.
Yes, which wasn't as good as the other ones, but still a good match. Yeah, like that was... I'll always remember the near fall of Steen and Generico doing the was it a swanton from Steen and followed immediately from one corner, followed immediately by a big splash from Generico in the other corner, I think was the spot. And getting just the most absurd near fall that the whole crowd came off their feet for. That match ruled.
And also, the 6-man tag that weekend, I am on record as saying that is the best in-ring tag of the Dragon Gate and Ring of Honor matches. Obviously, 2006 holds a special place in everyone's heart because of the crowd. 2007 is super fun, but 2008, for me, on a strictly in-ring basis, is as good as it gets.
Yeah, I think of them all very similar. I think they all are amazing in different ways based on the competitors. Like, I think 2007 is the one where you get Shingo and Mochizuki just being amazing together.
Yeah, that finishing stretch. I think you just put that up on Twitter recently.
Yeah, it's wild. But I find it hard to put any of those 3 matches ahead of the others because I just think they're all just at such a high level that there's nothing between them. As far as that's one thing I wanted to just come back to. Case, when you were talking about the teams in this tournament, one you didn't mention is one where they might not sound like such an attractive team in 2021 to newer viewers, or really viewers of the past 5 years of Dragon Gate. But in 2008, like, I might have been as hyped up for this team as any other in the tournament, and that was the team that we saw on this TV block in this essentially semi-final for Shima and Dragon Kid. It was Yamato and Cyberkong. Let's do it with their name too, Yamakong. And like, I was, they were basically the New Hazard uh, rejects isn't the word because they left New Hazard, but they were the guys that ditched New Hazard and formed the basis of Real Hazard, and I was so into them as heels and as
Yeah.
great working heels, in the sense that, like, sometimes I'm a little bothered with um the Dragon Gate heels of recent vintage where they might not have the um intensity, or not intensity, but the what's the word? Things can kind of be a little slow at times, and they can kind of meander, and you just get these kind of, like, I'm picturing poor SB Kento, who's great. Don't get me wrong, but there'll be points in the match where he's just kind of a bit lethargic and just throwing lazy stomps and then taunting a little bit, and it's like, come on, man, get on your bike here. But Yamato and Cyberkong were just, they brought the action. They brought the action hard, and Yamato had so much charisma at this point. Like, it was insane, the charisma he had, and I think this match is close to their peak as a team. The one other that jumps out to me is a pay-per-view match they had against Naruki Doi and Naoki Tanizaki, which was amazing.
Yes.
So yeah, they ruled as a team. Kong was Kong was a really exciting prospect back then. Like, no one was gonna, like, mistake him for Gran Hamada, but he had something, like, and I would say it didn't, like, there was glimpses in future years of, if he was in there with the right person, of what we kind of thought he could be, but I wonder how much that run in with Shima just overall affected his confidence and his trajectory, because I don't think he ever got to where you'd think he'd get to, seeing how good he was in this match in 2008, where just, yeah, him and Yamato just tear it up, and Shingo and Kid have to really earn a spot in the final here against Doi and Yoshino, who had a tough trip through into the final themselves, just scraping by Saito and Yokosuka by the skin of their teeth in one of the fastest paced matches I've ever seen. These guys looked like they were on fast forward in this match. It was crazy, that first match on the show.
And then as for this match, as for the final, so it's, Dragon Kid and Shingo versus Doi and Yoshi, and there's a million things I can say about this match. The one thing that I want to be sure that I get in, and I'm just not talented enough of a podcaster to seamlessly fit this in. I kind of have to lead with this, and we can talk about other parts of the match from here. But the spot that will stick with me, that will define this match, because there's been a million great Twin Gate matches, there's been a million great Doi Yoshi matches. This is the match that has the spot where Doi picks up Dragon Kid and he gives him the Doi fives over the top rope, and Dragon Kid goes face first onto the ring apron. It is one of the gnarliest spots I have ever seen. It is attempted murder. And while this is a podcast that is meant to praise Masato Yoshino, I do have one critique, and I am never someone that critiques guys for doing too much. I think wrestling should have more moves in it. But Doi hits this Doi fives that looks like death to Dragon Kid, and I wish Dragon Kid just would have stayed on the ground, but instead Yoshino hits the ropes and hits him with a tope, and it looks great. It's so much happening at once, but the Doi spot looked so deadly that I wish that was the end of it. I wish there wasn't a dive there, but to me, that is the defining spot in this match, is Doi wrecking Dragon Kid's shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, just on that spot, did is it my imagination, or did Doi, perhaps having learned from the mistake you talk about their case, and with years of experience since, did he use that move in the Dreamgate match against Eita and then
Yes.
basically build the next 5 minutes off of it and really make sure it was important.
I
Yeah.
believe
No.
Mike said yes. That is a tremendous callback that I did not pick up on.
I have this written in my notes, and I have a special Yoshino notebook for this series that uh, insane Doi fives to the outside, and then Yoshino just decided to do a tope. It just is something that like it's one of the more devastating moves in an arsenal that includes the roughest looking cannonball senton in wrestling, and then also the muscular bomb, a move that breaks people's necks,
How'd that
and
cannonball senton work out for him in this match?
not so well, not so well. But it's just I just love this period of Dragon Gate. Like we've talked about this a lot, Kay. It's like just like this, and especially like Shingo Takagi in 2008. He has like the most distinctive and cool forearm exchanges that he has with Doi, and Doi just like perseveres through it. And it's something that I like that you picked this match, Case. This is another match that I haven't seen in a couple of years, but I like this match because this match very much was all right. We're getting rid of Dragon Kid. He's annoying. We don't want him around here. And then let's just find ways to try to destroy Shingo's arm. And Shingo just, he is one of the best wrestlers of all time. And the work that he do towards his arm, he sells really well. And it's just really kind of interesting stuff that they kind of add a spin onto. Like one spot that I wanted to make sure to bring up was like the textbook missile stomp, where they do the arm ringer stomp, and then arm ringer, the big pose that's now King Shimizu's, and then Yoshino from the heavens double stomping down. Shingo just desperately like trying to like crawl his way and dragging Doi to another turnbuckle and getting drawn back for the double stomp was just awesome. Just presence and awareness there, and it's just one of those things that we talked about this with the Open the Freedom Gate show. These two teams just gel so well together.
There's just a level of perfection, and that's the word that I use intentionally here. As you'll read next week on voicesofwrestling.com, there's a great story that Mike Seidel told me about just how big of a perfectionist Yoshino is, and it comes across in this match. And it's not exclusive to this match. I think a lot of the Twin Gate matches that I really love have this trait in common. But there's so many big spots. There's so many moves. There's so much movement. There's so much happening in this match, and I think any lesser combatants, there's going to be holes in all of this commotion. But everyone is in the right spot in this match. Like it's just masterful what they're able to do. Where the only times they get out of control are seemingly times they use to elevate the match. Either the aforementioned Doi 5 spot that I talked about. There's a spot right before the finish where Doi does a tope suicida onto Shingo, and he kind of gets twisted in the air. Like he almost does a
It's
180
insane.
as he's diving. It's something so foreign to Dragon Gate. It's what makes this match stand out so much, is they really do push the limits of their athleticism and their physicality in this match. But because they do it, because they, at the end of the day, have this through line of staying in control, it pushes the match up a level. They never lose control. They're always aware of what they're doing and, more importantly, what is coming next. And I think it is just a masterful performance from all four men involved.
Did you guys feel like I did that maybe this was a real spotlight showcase match for Yoshino? The finishing stretch is all about him and Dragon Kid. And if I think of up to this point, obviously we talked about him as the number two in the Italian connection. He was a couple of rungs down, always in Blood Generation. When Doi and Yoshino started as a team, it always seemed like Doi was kind of the lead guy. I think Doi was the guy who, I don't know, he just, Doi got that singles match with Kenta. That might have come after. No, that was before this. So Doi was kind of given a bit more spotlight, I think, than Yoshino. And then here you really have Yoshino shining in the way this match ends. He hits a huge lightning spiral to put away Dragon Kid. Has this great cover and double fists up in the air, look to the heavens celebration when he wins, and the referee's hand hits the mat for 3. It just feels like a real moment for Masato Yoshino. Really, maybe the biggest moment of his career. to this point, where just establishing him as, he's not just a number two. He's not just Doi's sidekick. He is right there alongside him, and he is an integral part of this team. And I know, I thought he just really came across like a star. And yeah, I just thought that there was something else I was going to say there. It's gone out of my head, but yeah, Yoshino looked amazing here.
Yeah, really good stuff. One of my favorite, I guess this is not for the Twin Gate belts, but I will count this as a Twin Gate match. One of my favorites from the era. And like Alan talked about earlier, there's a 3-week stretch of TV. It's the No Ring Show, and then highlights from the Summer Adventure Tag League from just a bunch of various matches. That is a show where you get Doyoshi versus Mochi Fuji, and that match I think only happened twice, and they both happened in 2008. You get that on the show in between, the No Ring Show, and then the Summer Adventure Finals Tag League.
I need to go
Tag
back and
Finals.
watch that. When you said that to me last night, I obviously remember the No Ring Show. I remembered this show really well. I don't remember that in between show, but if it had that match on it, yeah, I need to watch that.
Yeah, that I think it's like a 10-minute match, and you get most of it, if not all of it. And then I know
Is it
the
Kobe?
Bucks. No, they Sambo Hall was not filmed on this tour, if I recall correctly. Let me see what venue that was in real quick. But
I can check that.
yeah.
You were saying about the books?
Oh, the Bucks pop up on that
Mhm.
that show briefly. I forget who it is that they wrestled, but that is so it's a show in Nagoya that
Yeah.
has the Doi Yoshi versus Mochi Fuji match, and then the Bucks versus Tozawa Juku was on that show, but I don't think that made tape. I think they showed parts of Bucks versus Speed Muscle, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that.
No, I think you're right. And it's a shame. I know we've talked about this case, but the Nagoya venue they used to tape at all the time, like it's something that with the times, with how they've changed, how they do their production and their schedule, I still think they run there occasionally, but it's not necessarily like that big spot there. But yeah, no, I remember like this run of shows, Infinity 97, 98, 99, were all just. This was a time period where we've talked about this before. There's a reason why Dragon Gate Infinity and the Observer Awards, and what the Observer Awards were before New Japan's rise, for what they were before that, there's a reason why Dragon Gate Infinity was always like the number 2 or number 3 ranked TV show, just because like they found a way.
Yeah, because I had threads on all the major message
I
boards with
remember
Dragon
those.
Gate Infinity, all caps, tilde bang, tilde bang, tilde bang, links inside, exclamation point, exclamation point. Just the most excited looking thread you could ever imagine seeing on a message board. And yeah, in that era, I was hitting the pavement hard for that one.
Just great TV at the time there, and I miss Nagoya. And it's also like a shame because like that's where UT found wrestling. Like there's footage a lot of the time where you could see a very young UT in the crowd, and the same with like SB Kento and those there. But it's sadly they've kind of changed like this. But like this era, like this tag league, like as we've been like alluding to, is something that we know all of it was taped. We know that somewhere there are these master tapes. Gaora, for us real sickos out there, put up the 2008 Summer Adventure Tag League. I know like in 3 months, Absolute Mente is going to go up on the network just because of where things are time-wise. But what the people really need, we need to have the complete Araiwa collection up on the network.
Someday there's just going to be some big. We're not going to see it coming. It's just going to be some big thing where I don't know they launch a new service or something happens where just like all that footage just becomes available, just like bam, right there and then, and it's going to be so overwhelming, and you guys and me will probably just like short circuit trying to think what we want to start with, and it will it will be a great day.
I mean, I know what I'm starting with. I'm starting with all the Araiwa matches and Tozawa Juku because that's who I am as a person.
I have a question for you guys about this match. Very curious because you obviously watched this within the past, I guess, a year, maybe a little more than a year. I forget how long you were doing the GGUSA rewatch series since I'm so far behind where you actually ended up on with it. But the Philadelphia iteration of this here tag match, does the Korakuen version top?
No, no,
No.
the Philadelphia tag match is something that I at least flirted with going 5 on, and is one of the 5 best matches in Dragon Gate USA history.
Yeah, no, sadly, I'm trying to pull up the list case because we did do like our wrap up thing where we were talking all about this. I'm trying to pull this up at the moment and I can't find it there, but I
Well,
think it ended up being like one of my top 3 matches in Dragon System history
yeah,
or Dragon Gate USA
I
history.
obviously remember that match being great, but having just watched the Corkin match last night and just being as just jaw on the floor in awe of it, I don't think that came across in me talking about it. This match was amazing. I loved it. It was
Yeah.
incredible. And having just seen that and with that fresh in mind, for you guys to be confidently saying, no, the Philly match is better, I'm like, yeah, I probably need to watch the Philly match tomorrow.
Yeah, the Philly match, like they do a ton of stuff in this. It's 25 minutes, we get 21 of it, and it's move after move after move after move. The Philly match is more. It's more of everything. It's absolutely insane. So I'm looking at my top 10 right now in Dragon Gate USA. This was my number 5, and I would highly recommend revisiting it at some point very soon.
Yeah, it's my number 4. I'm looking at like the complete list there that I made up of this. It's number 4. Just and like this was like on a show that, like, not to completely sidetrack us too much. This was on a show that I mean had a lot of stuff going on, and I mean BB Hulk becoming the first Open the Free and Gate champion, but this kind of stood alone and stood through the test of time, in my opinion. It was my best match in the company in 2009.
So yeah, Alan, go rewatch that. That's what we're saying.
I'm going to pull the DVD off the shelf as soon as we're done.
And with
So
that, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I had just one last question I was going to ask of you. So we think this is like purely concentrated Doyoshi here. For this time period, and this is a kind of a question I want to pose for both of y'all. Are Shingo Takagi and Dragon Kid the perfect foils for them? Because I came away from like now looking at this, looking at my DGUSA list and watching this today. I think they might be their best partner or their best opponents.
Yeah, I mean, who else? Who's the other signature speed muscle opponent? Because you can't say Motor City Machine Guns because they only had one match. I think this is Shingo and Dragon Kid are a very similar version of Cena and Generico, but they also only had one match. When you think of speed muscle, is there an opponent that you attach them to, Mike?
I think it's these two. I think that's the conclusion I'm coming to. I think
Yeah,
it's
because
that
I like their chemistry more than Saito and Susumu, and we
right.
get a lot of Saito and Susumu versus Speed Muscle, or at least a decent chunk considering what was taped and what aired. But
What about
yeah,
Shingo? What about Shingo and Hulk?
That
the
new
only
Hazard
memory
team.
the only memory that comes to mind when I think of Shingo Hulk and Doi and Yoshi is the Shingo turn where he and Kong turn on Hulk. But is there a straight Doi Yoshi versus Shingo Hulk match that I'm unaware
Yep,
of?
it's the January 2008 GAT Junior
Oh,
Heavyweight
yes.
Corkin.
Yeah, I watched that this week. That's my bad. Yes, I like Shingo and Dragon Kid a little bit better, but
I think I do
as
too. I was just
a
throwing them out.
reoccurring theme, Doi and Yoshino against Shingo is a good combination.
Yeah, and I think that's more on the Shingo Doi end of things because I think they have incredible chemistry. Shingo and Yoshino is this weird. I know you guys talked about their singles title match on one of the earlier episodes, but sh- yeah, Shingo and Doi just like you talked about their forearm exchanges earlier. That's always so good. The cannonball spot that I hinted at earlier was Doi did the cannonball just full on, full speed, no hesitancy whatsoever into the corner, and Shingo just caught it. He ate it, he caught it, and he stood out of the corner and powerbombed Doi to obliteration. It was an amazing spot. Those two guys just brought out the best in each other. And then on the other side, Dragon Kid and Yoshino, like they are so tied together as just incredible. Like maybe they didn't have like when you think of their touring singles matches in the US and the UK, they had a lot of them, and none of them were really like match of the year candidates. But in Japan, they did have that Bravegate match, which was I think they had two Bravegate matches, which were I think close to match of the year level, and they just have. It's not even so much any individual matches as it is just I think their chemistry with each other when you see them do anything, and certainly when you see them in a tag match, whenever they come into the ring together, like we had in the finishing stretch here, it's magic. They're so perfect working with each other. It's just poetry watching it, watching them do their stuff together, and the back and forth between them at the end of this match. I couldn't remember who won this watching it last night, and I honestly went from here's where Speed Muscle win to no, here's where Shingo and and Kid win, like about 4 times during the space of that closing stretch with Kid and Yoshino. They kept me guessing, and they had me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, I agree. That's very well put as we kind of cap off that match. Alan, and now let's go back to you. Let's talk about a match that I had absolutely zero memory of.
Yeah, so like I talked about at the start of the show, I kind of pulled a crazy one out here. I went with the 2016 King of Gate. I believe this was Kobe World Hall. Or not Kobe World Hall, Kobe Sun World Hall. That would have been something. But if this was 5 years ago, a Masato Yoshino who is very much a seasoned veteran at this point, and very much in the role of the seasoned veteran, as he took on someone who we think of as a young guy right now in 2021, but he was it's shocking how young he was and how good he was already 5 years ago. It is the boy prince himself, El Lindemann. King of Gate, Yoshino El Lindemann. Just a match I remembered watching and really enjoying, and it wasn't a match that got a ton of hype, but I have it logged away in my match of the year tracking list. I think I didn't go back and check, but I'm like 99% sure I gave it a nice 4.25. And I loved what they did here, and I remember thinking of it as a real coming out party for Lindemann at the time. We knew he had potential, we knew he was good, but for he was probably what 19, 20 at most at this point. For him to produce a match of this quality, a performance of this quality, I think was real next step to next level stuff for him, and we got to see Yoshino working as the seasoned veteran so brilliantly, and it showed a level of maturity that is the complete antithesis to what he was in that 2000 match, where it was all raw potential and yeah, just like the El Lindemann here was the Masato Yoshino of 2002, where you just see all this raw potential. And now Masato Yoshino in 2016, it's a guy who's realized all that potential, and he's now, I don't want to say gatekeeper. Selling him short, but he is a hurdle that a young wrestler like El Lindemann isn't going to overcome, but you want to see how high he can get trying to clear that hurdle. And spoiler, this match goes to a time limit draw, so while he doesn't clear the hurdle, it doesn't trip him up either. And they do a tremendous job in this match, and it actually goes a slightly different direction than you'd probably think, because a large portion of the match is actually, and this is a real test for him, and he passed it with flying colors. It's Lindemann in control of the match, because he exploits an injury to Yoshino's leg, and he goes to work on it in really, really skilled and impressive fashion. He he doesn't um, he doesn't relent. He's intense. His leg work is all really good, and it is sold brilliantly by Yoshino. Yoshino does a masterful job of selling all the way through this match, and then they build to a frantic closing stretch where you have Yoshino essentially trying to survive. Every time Yoshino goes for the kill, Lindemann has his number, and it's Lindemann then putting Yoshino in danger, whether it's Yoshino desperately trying to fight off a German suplex, but then he gets hit with German suplexes, kicks out barely, and then he's trying to desperately fight off a tiger suplex, and Lindeman's trying to lock that in. Yoshino gets out, and then Lindemann goes back to the leg and has Yoshino in a leg submission as the time expires, and Yoshino's just trying to survive and get to the ropes. It's brilliantly done. Tremendous performances from both guys in very different roles, and a very clear story to this match.
And it's something that, Alan, you told this match's story beautifully, but just to like further like cement it, Yoshino basically in 20 minutes makes a Lindemann in this match because how expertly he sells, the sense of desperation where like you open up and it's like a fun opening where like they're like grappling, and then suddenly a Lindemann's like, oh wait, I'm a judoka and I was a very good judoka. I should be able to like dismantle this guy. And then you could kind of see the look in Yoshino's eyes, and it's something that we've talked about before about how Yoshino is one of the most expressive wrestlers when it counts. Those last gasps of life kickouts, and you just like see the look on his face of going like, originally it's like, all right, I need to take care of this kid because at this time, and I thought this was the case, I went back and looked. This time limit draw eliminated Masato Yoshino from the King of Gate 2016, and Big R Shimizu instead won the block here. So the look in Yoshino's face of like, oh, this is actually like bad now. I need to take care and get out of this because this kid is coming for me. This kid knows what happens, how big this would be if this is his big win here, especially because this is El Lindemann's first King of Gate. He escapes King of Gate with only 1 point, and it's this point here. And El Lindemann's just a shark. My exact note in here, pardon my language, is El Lindemann is a fucking shark towards Yoshino's leg throughout this, and it's just expertly done. You get like Yoshino, like the way that he sells his leg is just like shaking it out, coming down hard sometimes, and just like wincing with it, and then like shaking it out and trying to go for the Orihara moonsault, where immediately Big R Shimizu gives the most like tender like ice like the ice bag on his knee as it happens there, going to that amazing fishing stretch. And it was something where the thing that I really liked in this finishing stretch here, Alan, was Yoshino like is really like grasping for air because he's like, I have to win this match, and he goes for like a Torbolino's crucifix. Lindemann kicks out, does a judo throw, and then does some of the neatest like pinning combinations that I've seen going into like, okay, I got to see if I can get him with the knee bar at this point, and
that
then the bell
little
ring.
like kind of back leg trip into a roll
Yes.
through thing he did that came out of nowhere, done at excused upon lightning speed on the Speed Star. Like,
Absolutely.
that was unbelievable. I leapt off the couch to see when Lindemann did that little thing. That for someone that inexperienced at that age to be that technically just sound is I like this was, and this is not a slight on current El Lindemann, because current El Lindemann's awesome, but he didn't look any less capable here than he looks in 2021. And it's not like he hasn't progressed in 5 years. It's just he was already at such a high level 5 years ago. It's crazy how maybe he just had a really good night, but I think we saw other performances, maybe not at this level, but high enough level to know he had this in him back then.
Well, the issue that Lindemann will face going forward, and I echo everything you guys said about this match. It was brilliant, and by 2016, I'm reviewing the big Dragon Gate shows for Voices of Wrestling. I have the fondest memories of King of Gate 2016. I don't know why I did not remember this match, but I had no clue it existed. Gun to my head, I would have said these two never had a singles match. But that's exactly it. I mean, Lindemann, I remember his debut, and I remember thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a guy. To what degree, I don't know, but oh my God, look at this guy. Like, look at just the foundation that he has as a black tights debuting young boy. And you see 2 years later what he was able to do with Yoshino. The issue now, if you want to expand this to what he's doing in GLEAT and All Japan and 0-1, which is the crux of this argument, is who is he going to work at this point that he is going to get better from? If you throw him in the All Japan Junior division, he's now arguably a veteran, or at least one of the more well-traveled wrestlers there, with all due respect to someone like Hikaru Sato, who I know has a nice following, but isn't a wrestler who lights my world on fire. I don't know if Lindemann gets better working guys like that. I don't know if there's someone on the GLEAT roster outside of intensive interaction with CIMA, wrestling CIMA, not teaming with him. I don't know if there's someone there that can take him to another level. Is he going to get better working Kaliga Pro?
Kazuyashi and Minoru Tanaka would be the two for me.
I do always slight Minoru Tanaka, and that is my bad. Minoru Tanaka, absolutely. Hayashi can still go, but yeah, it's just you're missing those guys. I talked earlier about Milano in the what if, and while I don't necessarily sit back and think about, what would T-Hawk be doing right now in Dragon Gate, or even what would CIMA be doing right now in Dragon Gate, El Lindemann's one where I think, man, I'd like to get him back. I would like to see him wrestling KZ at this point in his career. I'd like to see what he can do with Susumu. I'd like to see El Lindemann against SB Kento. It's another great what if of, and what could have been. And I just worry long term. I mean, I think Lindemann, he's not even 30 yet, I don't
26.
think.
I just checked.
Oh my God, he's
See,
26 years old.
He was 21 for this match we're talking about. And I was thinking about what you were just saying there earlier, and I was thinking about how, like, not that he's, again, I don't want to slight where he's at now, but it's like, I hate to use the word stagnated, but I was thinking to myself, has he stagnated? I don't think he has, but I was thinking, if he has, why is that? And what I was thinking of was kind of a variation of what you're saying there, Case. And where I kind of landed on it was that, and I think, I'm hoping GLEAT will give some kind of structure that will help with this. But for the last couple years, where Lindemann and T-Hawk to an extent, I think this has hit T-Hawk too, where they kind of found themselves in a position where they were going to loads of different places. And if you go to loads of different places, generally that's talked about as a thing which is great for a wrestler in terms of learning. And I think that was more so the case in like the 80s and 90s, early 90s particular. Chris Jericho goes to CMLL. He learns a ton because he's dropped into CMLL and he has to adapt. Whereas now, if you're El Lindemann comes and wrestles in Cork in Ireland for OTT, okay? He wrestles in Oberhausen in Germany for WXW. I was there in the building both those times. And he goes out and he puts on a match. It was him and T-Hawk teaming, and this goes, I'm using those two examples, but this is basically the majority of the work he did, even to an extent the AEW stuff, the majority of the work that they did when they were kind of touring Nomad Strong Hearts, is they'd go in and you'd have a promoter or whatever who'd be saying, hey, you guys do your thing that you do that has people wanting you on our show, that has you going around working in different places. So they go and they do what has worked for them and what gets a reaction. And with El Lindemann, you kind of will see him do kind of the same spots, the same sequences. Like, I've seen him do certain sequences a bunch of times, particularly during that sort of late 2018 through to early 2020 period of maybe 18 months where they were really touring around. I probably saw certain El Lindemann sequences over and over a lot, whether it was in Big Japan, whether it was in WXW, wherever it might have been. Because nowadays you don't get dropped in to a place when you're going learning somewhere and have to adapt to that. You just go and you do what you do, because the fans are so kind of well versed in wrestling from all over. Wrestling is so globalized now that there's not that distinct, like, if you were a US territorial wrestler that walked into Arena Mexico in 1991 and you tried to do your Memphis shtick, the fans wouldn't know what to do with it. It'd be like, what? They wouldn't react. It'd be really strange. Maybe it'd be amazing. It actually does sound kind of amazing, but you know what I'm saying. Um, Likewise, if you were a luchador and tried to do your lucha shtick in the Memphis Coliseum, that might not work. So you had to adapt. Whereas now, I don't think the pressure is on guys to adapt because wrestling audiences are so globalized and the wrestling style is so globalized, to be honest. So you can kind of be Al Lindemann and just go and do your tried and trusted stuff. Get in, get out, get a reaction. Fans are happy because they might not have seen your stuff before and it's their first time seeing this touring act. Someone like me who follows the touring act around, it gets a bit repetitive. And I can kind of see the wrestler maybe stagnating a little bit. Whereas if you're in Dragon Gate, and that's solely where you're working. And if you're Kaito Ishida and you're there in one place the whole time, and you're being put in different situations against different guys, and you have a story that's changing, whether you're turning heel, being put in this feud, going into this program, having to be a champion, having to challenge for championships, these are all things you need to adapt to, and you need to learn new skills within the context of your promotion. Um, and that's what Lindemann missed out on for those years. And if you look at how Kaito Ishida developed in that period versus how Lindemann has developed in that period, one has added a lot of strings to his bow in terms of being a professional wrestler. The other has gotten in really sick shape and got an awesome tan and bleached his hair and gone a little crazy and is still really good and still has all the potential in the world. I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on Lindemann, but you can kind of see there's a difference there. And I think if he was having more experiences like working with Yoshino here, maybe doing a program with Mochizuki, whatever it might be, being a Brave Gate champion, having to defend the title for 9 months and make the different championship matches different and interesting like Yoshida did, that would have had Lindemann. We'd see a very different Al Lindemann now than we do. I really do think that. But you learn a lot from going into different countries and having to fend for yourself and just be dropped in Essen, Germany, and live in the WXW Academy for 3 weeks while Shima is off taking care of business in other parts of the world. And boy, oh boy, could I tell you guys some stories about that and what that looked like for those guys. But yeah, that's a rant and a half that I wasn't expecting to go on. But I hope that I get that point across. Okay, was that did I make sense?
Yeah.
Alan, the comparison of Ashita to Lindemann is perfection. That's exactly what it is. And Lindemann being 26 depresses me because where does he go from here? I mean, if the GLEAT thing works out, great. I am a little bit more favorable of it compared to Mike. I know Mike is way down on it. I think it's at least a landing pad. I think it's something he can do. He can do something there for at least a little bit. That's the best way I can describe my
Right.
thoughts on the promotion, but I don't know how he gets better. I honestly, his specific landing spot to me is DDT, and not that I want to separate the Strong Hearts because I do think they are still tremendously entertaining together, but Lindemann and DDT to me is the answer. I think he can get away with his size there, his charisma works there, his in-ring, both in terms of the comedy that he can do and the serious nature of his approach. I think it all works there. Strong Hearts had success there as a trio and as a unit, but I do think long term, I don't know if that's the spot for T Hawk. I don't think that's the spot for Shima, but I do think it's where Lindemann would fit best. But he's attached at the hip to these guys for now and attached in a promotion. So I don't know. It's a bummer that this is where we're at with his career. When you look at 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, all the hope and potential that was there.
I think
Yeah.
sorry, Mike, I'll let you go ahead because I am conscious I've just talked for a lot here.
On the-
But just to say, I think it was encouraging to see on that first show where he's opening the show in a feature singles match against a big heavyweight guy, an impressive guy, and he gets the win, and they put a really good match together. And I thought Lindemann kind of like stepped up and showed an intensity in that match that was very encouraging. And then he got a chance to kind of carry the mic work and promo stuff, and he was really kind of pushed as one of the faces of the brand. Which, like, even if this thing flames out in 2 years, if that kind of progresses and that kind of face of the brand, he's kind of slotted in that role where he's kind of one of the main kind of faces of the brand and cutting promos and in big spots on the shows, like that will be good for his growth. It will. I would definitely think that's the case. So, yeah, and if he can in that period of time learn as much as he can from guys like Minoru Tanaka and Kasayashi, then it could be good. It's not the most regimented learning experience that a by the book like a guy in the Dragon Gate system would be getting, but there's stuff to take from it anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was actually gonna like bring up about like Lindemann now versus Lindemann in 2016 is that you look at how things were in 2018 when the split happens, and it was like the perfect time for El Lindemann going with like the past and the Dragon system for him to go on an excursion, and it was something that you would think that like we think about like Shingo Takagi's excursion, we think about Akira Tozawa's excursion, we think about how Shun's completely changed since his excursion. And because of, I think the reason that you laid out with like doing the traveling act, he did not have the kind of the same experience as one would expect. Like, I mean, Akira Tozawa basically going like, all right, I have this preternatural crowd connection, and I'm using that to get me over. I'm already a solid enough wrestler there. Shingo Takagi just being a force of nature, and then Shun Skywalker being able to kind of get out of everyone's hair and, you know, become like true heavyweight versus his high flying self that was before. We didn't have that with Lindemann. Lindemann would do the traveling strong hearts match. It was always fun, but like it's one of those things that, like as you said, Alan, like he doing that, playing the hits in a lot of ways. AEW was something that, especially at that time, if they were around more, maybe they would have done more with strong hearts. And then there's the whole issue about not being able to get the OWE kids into America, which is its own issue there. And I guess like the thing about and why I'm more down on this is I see really one true path forward for a Lindemann, and it is going to require something that I don't think he's going to do, which is cut ties with T-Hawk and Shima. And I think that he is someone that, you know, he does that. Maybe he goes work DDT for a couple of years, does most of the indies, but I think that he does that, and eventually, you know, I mean, he's 26 now. He's the one out of the four really that I could see walking back into Dragon Gate one day, and I think that's his. I think that's his best case scenario. I mean, I hope Gleek goes well. I just have been around the block enough and have seen enough of these like fly by night promotions pop up in Japan, especially like right now in Japan. That's a terrible idea, and the way that they're blowing money, and I just like look at it and I'm like, oh, this will be fun. I know there's interest in it, but I don't expect it to last long given the paychecks that a lot of the people on that show are taking.
As for Lindemann versus Yoshino, an unbelievable match. The struggle, I will dare I use meme language here when I say the struggle was real, but the fight and the struggle in this match was just absolutely terrific. It's one of those matches that bums me out because I think the people that would arguably enjoy this most are the people that would never think about watching Dragon Gate, but this had such a distinct feel to it, such a unique, you know, grappling heavy style of match. Well done, Alan. Thank you for sending this my way. I thoroughly enjoyed this match.
Yeah,
I'm glad I wasn't sure whether you guys would remember or not, because as I said, I felt it was a match for a lot of people might not remember, but it's like if anyone does, it'd be probably you guys. So I'm kind of happy that you didn't, and yeah, that it was kind of a something, because I really thought, especially when you said to me you didn't remember, I was like, I think Case is gonna really like this when he watches it. But yeah, something I was gonna say there about oh yeah, no, it's an after recording thing. It's not a scoop or anything, guys. I'm not blackballing the listeners or blue balling the listeners. It's just something that doesn't need to be talked about on air in terms of doesn't add to the discussion.
Scoops with a Z. That's what Alan
It's
has
not a
for us after
scoop.
the show.
I'll tell you what it was. I wanted to ask the guys their opinion about Issei Onitsuka in terms of the Strong Hearts and Galate, but yeah, I don't think that's really necessary for the Masato Yoshino Speed Star retrospect, unless you want it.
Oh, no, nice little wrestler. Hope he does well. Actually, thought he looked really good on the first Glee show. First time I've ever said that about him. But he's fine. He would be on the lower end of a Dragon Gate prospect if he came in right now. But I think he's got a cushy gig in Strong Hearts, and I wish him the best.
I think he's progressing real nicely.
Yeah, it's certainly better. Him on the first Glee show was way better than whatever the last time I saw him was.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw him was Wrestle 1, and I thought it was pretty I was glad that Yamamura had a friend that was going along with him. That was my take up until the Glee show.
Where did he come from? Was he a Wrestle 1 trainee?
No, to my understanding, he is a friend of Takeru Yamamura's from childhood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess like the interesting thing about this match, and I'm really, really glad, Alan, that you brought this to us, is we got to see an aspect of Yoshino here that, at least from the series so far, we really didn't get to see, and that is Yoshino kind of like taken out of the Yoshino role in a way. Like, yes, he is certifiably the guy. He's Monster Express at this time, is one of the super face stable at the time, and he's coming off of all these Dreamgate runs. Like, he is undefined. Like, even in the era of the Big Six, he was the guy coming out of it here. But having him kind of like thrown to the angry pink shark boy prince of pro wrestling, that was a real treat. And saying like Yoshino just, I mean, if you want a clinic, if you're a wrestler listening to this, if you want to watch a clinic of how to get someone else who should not be on your level over, watch Masato Yoshino in this match. It's really spectacular.
Hey, how troubling was it seeing T-Hawk at ringside cornering the guy against El Lindemann?
Deeply disturbing imagery. Although I go back and I was, a pretty big fan of T-Hawk during most of that run, but there's something about when I rewatch that era, I just think, God, what was he doing here? Like, and I liked a lot of it at the time. I think the T-Hawk and Eita stuff holds up really well. I think he has some good Dreamgate matches that aren't necessarily. He's not the reason they're good, but he's in good matches. But as a whole, what an odd fit. Wrestle 1 was perfect for him. It's a bummer Wrestle 1 went away because that was the perfect spot for T-Hawk.
Yeah, he was amazing in those Wrestle 1 title matches that he had. That was maybe the best work he's done in his career, I would say. Would that be crazy to say?
I mean, outside of the Eita tags, I think, I mean, TNE, I mean, that tag team, and I mean, they try to replicate what they had in Millennials and Antios and Berserk, and it just did not work. But yeah, no, T-Hawk, I mean, we'll see how the future goes for T-Hawk. I'll just leave it at that.
Something I've never thought about that has just blown my mind is that the show I was at in 2016, which was April 2016, I literally just popped into my head there. I was like, was that the match on this show? I didn't realize it was El Lindemann versus T-Hawk on the show I was at in Cork. And El Lindemann beat T-Hawk in 10 minutes on that show. April 2016. Isn't that wild? Considering Lindemann then, like a few months later, is a 1-point guy in King of Gate. And like T-Hawk in 2016 was that before? That was before either of his?
No, he headlined 2015 and 2017, so this is in the middle of his two big pushes. Yeah, I don't remember that at all. This whole show outside the main event, because the match before that is Ishida and Yamamura versus Fuji and UT, and that will need to be revisited in the wee hours of the night. That is a match that is only meant to view in darkness. Whatever comes of that match will be some sort of pleasure that is not meant to be seen during sunlight. But Lindemann versus T-Hawk, zero. I gotta revisit this whole period because I have no idea why that match happened.
Well, if you're watching the full if you're watching a full April 2016 Korakuen show, make sure you watch for your boy and his interaction with Masaki Mochizuki during the main event entrance.
That I remember. That I will never forget.
Yeah.
The smile on Alan's face, really hard to beat.
I don't remember whatever the hell this 30-second singles match of Mondai Ryu versus Cyber Kong was after the main event. What in God's name was that?
Geez, remember 2016? I think it was something with because if I'm right in the time frame, Mondai Ryu was hurt a lot and then was drafted over to Over Generation because there was a winner gets it to pick a member of the other team, and they decided, yeah, we'll take Mondai Ryu, and maybe that was around like his return, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe.
That's just me pulling something out of my ass there. Did Misaki Mochizuki recognize that you were one of the two people in the Dragon Gate USA Miami shows that was chanting Mochi during his entrance? Like, I feel like he's the man who has a list of every single match he's been in. I feel like he would remember.
Well, he definitely liked me because he gave me a sweet program with lots of cool stuff in it. It was like kind of a year
that was
annual kind of a thing.
What was that? Oh yeah, that was the train conductor. That was during when like he became the ticket taker for the Jimmy's train.
Yeah. And he came out with the thing, and he was giving gifts to various people in the crowd, of which I received one. But it was my interactions with Masaki Mochizuki were standing beside him as he goes nuts watching Vader kill a bunch of jobbers in Miami on that Legends show. Clearly a big fan of UWFI run from Super Vader back in the mid 90s. I went up to him at a DGUK meet and greet, and before he wrestled Susumu in Cambridge in the United Kingdom beside a graveyard. And well, actually, when we arrived at that show, he was doing laps of said graveyard with Shima, training before the show. They were running around gravestones, and we were, I don't know, maybe 200 yards away from them where we parked. And I pointed over towards them, and I got the other guys with me to all do the ooh. And Shima gave a half-hearted stop of his jog and a ooh. And Mochizuki, I think, probably just shook his head. But then at the meet and greet, maybe an hour later, I went up to Mochizuki and I said probably something like, you and Susumu, very excited. I love Mochizuki Contra Mochizuki 2003 or whatever the year would have been, and 2002, I guess. And he looked at me like I was the biggest nerd in the world. And then our final interaction was that spot on this show. So,
well, you helped him reconnect with Taz on Twitter recently as well.
Oh yeah, we've had actually lots of positive Twitter interactions now today. I would dare say that me and Masaki Mochizuki are good social media pals.
Oh God, I'm so envious, Alan. I'm so envious.
I'm usually up in the wee hours of the morning getting ready to go to bed an hour later than I should have, and he's hitting the gym the next morning. So that's always my sign. When I see Masaki Mochizuki in the gym, I'm like, I need to get to bed.
It's something where every morning you could count on it. Mochi's Twitter account. He'll have a photo of him in the gym.
Clockwork.
He is like clockwork, and he will always have a comment of when like, although I'm getting older, I must train stronger. Bitter smile. Like he'll write out bitter smile, and I'm just like, all right, like just like clockwork. It's something that usually. I'm trying to think of time change wise when he's doing it. It's usually around it's usually about like dinner time or about time for me to turn on Dynamite where I see that. I'm like, all right. And as we're speaking, Mochizuki has tweeted just right now, like clockwork.
Oh, he's early.
What a man. Yeah. I mean, it's like 6:30 over there, you know? That's early. Oh, he's at the ring. He's setting up the ring truck and he is at the dojo.
Might have a photo of one of the dojo cats coming at us as well.
One can hope.
Enjoyable content there. This was we got off on Mochizuki Twitter nonsense. This is even for our standards. This is pretty impressive.
we someday we'll do a show with where it's like tangents only. We don't have a topic and we just do tangents.
I think you just booked yourself for next week. That sounds incredible.
Well, Alan, well, a question that we usually ask everyone on this series is, and I think it'd be a good way for us to close this out. To you, what is Masato Yoshino to you? I know that's a very wide question, and what is kind of like your strongest memory of Masato Yoshino?
Um, to me, when I think Masato Yoshino, um, there's a phrase Chris Hero once used to describe Claudio Castagnoli, and it's a term I've used for a small amount of people over the years that I think really are they they deserve this term used from them. That's a pro wrestling angel, just an angel sent from the heavens to just give nothing but positive to professional wrestling. To be an angel of pro wrestling, you need to obviously be amazing. You need to be incredible. You need to be like one of the best workers of all time. You need to never put a foot wrong. You need to be unselfish. You need to be um, someone with a good attitude. You need to be someone that's endlessly professional. Someone that no one ever says a bad thing about. You never hear any scandal about. That's what Chris Hero was talking about when he referred to Claudio as an angel sent to pro wrestling from the heavens. And I can't think of many people that fit that description better than Masato Yoshino. Um, he's just tremendous, and he's someone who will be, maybe like the ultimate pro wrestling angel is just Jushin Thunder Liger, and he retired, and it was such a happy thing, and we saw the catastrophic effect of removing him from pro wrestling. This global pandemic, the wrestling industry like grinding to a halt. I'm hoping we don't have similar consequences from Masato Yoshino removing himself from pro wrestling.
Pro Wrestling Angel, Masato Yoshino. I love it. I think that's a perfect note for us to go out.
As far as you also asked what my kind of Yoshino
Right.
strongest
Sorry.
Yoshino memory would be. I probably shouldn't have interjected there. I should probably just let you finish because I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I want
That's
to.
all good.
I want to say the Mochizuki match at Korakuen. You know those entrances. Anytime you got Speed Star with the piano before it, um, that always just is goosebump inducing. And yeah, that's a big one. That Mochizuki match at Korakuen Hall. That's probably the one I'd go with.
I mean,
And
I know we've
the
talked.
smile on his face, like after, like the Amigo tag match with Susumu and Kagetora, just how happy he was getting to share that moment with his best pal Sachioko boy. Yeah, yeah, that moment of happiness that was just really and like the connection, the crowd would always be so happy when they'd see Yoshino be happy. Like when Yoshino smiled, it would just light up the room, and everyone would be happy when he was happy, and that's a great example of it as well.
I think that is just like thinking about the Mochi match. Like I've kept that into our holster. If Case and I continue this series after his retirement, eventually we have to talk about that match. Just because, Alan, I know we've talked about this. I remember at least on the board you having Mochizuki in the ring with the lights dimmed. I think there was a disco ball come out there, and they were starting to fade to Masato Yoshino during the piano entrance. That is just one of those indelible marks in pro wrestling to me.
Yeah. One of my favorite. We had these things back in the day, kids, called signatures, SIGs as we called them, and that was my that was one of my favorite SIGs I had in my message board or career.
I mean, I had for the longest time on a different message board, I had the Akira Tozawa, Shepard Fahy Tozawa photo as it for a while. So, kids, it used to be that you would have both your icon and then something after your post. And if it was a really good one, someone who, like me, will remember it 8, 9 years later.
I'm gonna embarrass myself, and I'll show the lads, and uh, maybe they'll keep it to themselves, or maybe they'll want to embarrass me publicly. But I'm gonna dig out here my original signature that I made for myself on my first message board in 2002.
Oh wow, Case. I know that with you, PWO was a message board that you were really on at the time. Did you ever bother with these photos and signatures at all, or was that just?
Yeah. There was a forum I was on way before PWO that I definitely remember, and this is 2013 ish, having
Okay.
someone commission me a Sammy Callahan signature because I know how to pick them. Fucking probably had a Teddy Hart signature in there at some point. No, not really, but yeah, definitely flirted with this a lot. Having like the graphic designer of the forum shell out some graphics for me. And I specifically remember a Sammy Callahan one and an Austin Aries one. Because in 2013, it was okay to like Austin Aries.
Did they have the fire around your user title with the photo of it?
Oh, that I don't know. I know in the forum I was on, you could like customize your username, and so I definitely would like play with the color of that. And my overall aesthetic of the page was fit to my liking, but I don't know about any fire. I have a real life fear of fire, so even digitally, I would not feel comfortable with that.
No, I respect that. I remember for a while my really good one that I had, other than the Tozawa Shipper Fahey one, was I had a Mochi's. It was Don Fuji with the dog. Well, one of the many Don Fuji photos I have that was just phenomenal. And looking at Alan's, you know what? That's I see this and not too embarrassing, Alan. I think that you're fine about this. I would not be as ashamed about it as you were alluding to.
So it's a young AJ Styles, perhaps in an NWA Wildside ring. It is Kurt Angle, which if it's 2002, gotta have Kurt Angle. You are a work rate guy after all. And then that is Trish Stratus, I believe. Is that correct, Alan? Did we lose Alan? Alan is muted.
I could say yes, that is Trish Stratus.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I was like not positive in that answer.
16, 17-year-old Alan, 2002, big Trish Stratus guy. Big Trish Stratus guy. Hey, look what I found. You think that isn't embarrassing? Oh my god, what I've just found. So basically, like, you'd put this series of code in as part of your SIG, and it would have, like, all this kind of extra information. Like, mine is ridiculously long here, but everyone had these. So I've just sent it to you as it was in this notepad document. Wait till you see some of the stuff here.
Well, for one, you have a. This is all in BB code, which is something that I incredibly remember. Listing of all your faves here.
So we have
You
the respect list slash. So this is other forum members who you have exchanged respect with. Jazz Van Dam.
2K, Jazz Van Dam, Street Dog, the book. God, Street Dog probably got some good posts.
I'm wondering about Zinfandel.
Alan saying his favorite match of all time, Chris Benoit versus Triple H versus Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 20. That is very interesting, as well as the fact that at the bottom of this, and we are now at the point of the show where we are reading Alan's Twitter DMs for those that are possibly confused. It is good to know Alan is a member of the Mattitude Club.
In purple text.
In purple.
And then all caps, very important, credit myself for the banner.
There you go.
Why do I have member of the Mattitude Club twice?
I mean, you're really proud of being a member of the Mattitude Club.
Long live professional wrestling.
Hey, brother, I'll drink to that. I hope it's around for a lot longer. We got to get you back on the show. we got to do an episode talking about wrestling forums.
I mean, I could start pulling up my old role plays when it e-fitting.
That's I think that's the next evolution of this because I have an EWR diary stashed away somewhere on the internet.
Oh, there we go.
That's what I'm talking about. I just remember booking a stable with Austin Aries, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish, and going like, yeah, this should be on national TV. This is good shit.
3/4 of the way. 3/4 of the way. You know,
I think you forgot Bobby Fish's allegiance to QAnon. We're really only batting about 500 there.
I forgot that he wants to save the children. I forgot that. Oh,
Oh,
Florida.
Mike, what are we doing here? What are we doing? We got to wrap this episode up, my man.
Yeah, before we go completely off the rails, Alan, as always, it's an absolute pleasure to spend some time talking to you and for you to come on to our series. Is there anything you would like to plug before we get out of here?
I forgot I was doing a podcast. I just thought I was chatting with my buds here. Wow, this is, as always, guys, an absolute blast talking to you. It's so much fun. We could talk for days. Yeah, plugs. PW Torch VIP, of course, sign up there for all the great PW Torch content, old and new, huge amount of archival contents, and all the new shows, including my own show, Progress Paradise, posted every week, and the show which just went up. I'm super proud of, super happy about it. It's one of these shows where it's like, that's finishing. I'm like, that's why I still do a podcast. Because it was just me and my pal Lee Malone from the Days of Thunder pod. We talked about Paul Orndorff and we just dug into a bunch of Paul Orndorff matches and pulled them apart and talked about them and went on tangents like we did here. And it was just so much fun. And you can kind of hear us just waxing lyrically about some of the stuff in those matches that we were. Look, I'm not going to be able to blow by blow go through Orndorff's career to the level of detail that Joe Lanza did last week. An incredible job, but me and Lee both kind of came from the same point in terms of like being aware of Orndorff, knowing a bit about him, having certainly seen a lot of him over the years, but never really dug into thinking about him too much. And we did that. We did that. Am I still on here?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, sorry, it's just Case dropped off. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just got a message from him. I thought I dropped off. But yeah,
No, you're good.
We just kind of come from the same point of just digging in and just reviewing the matches we watched, and I was really happy with that audio and how it came out. So I hope people enjoy that if they check that out. And Alan4L, of course, is the Twitter account where you can find me, and anything of note that I need to let you know about will be posted there. So thank you for everything, guys. Mike still here, Case not here. Thank you for everything. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you again, Alan. You could follow the show at Open Voice Gate on Twitter. Usually I mess up the intro, not the outro. And you could follow Case at _ in your case, and you can follow me at Fujiheya. That's it for Open the Voice Gate Speedstar. We'll be back with you next time talking more about Masato Yoshino and the road to Masato Yoshino's retirement show, Speedstar Final. Take care, everyone.